Welcome to my podcast.
Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be on your podcast.
Have you ever done a podcast before?
I feel like I've done a lot of. I've never done my own,
Me neither.
which is weird because we're men in our 40s.
And we live in Brooklyn.
Do you know that this is how we met? This is how we first met.
No,
You remember?
I don't remember how we first.
You interviewed me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Before I joined Vice,
Uh-huh.
I'd done a documentary, and you were in charge of interviewing all the people who had done the documentary.
Yeah.
And I don't smoke weed. I don't enjoy it. It scares me.
Really?
Yeah. I'll get into that later. But so I hadn't seen Weedy Kit, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this big upstairs studio that was like your studio.
Yes.
And everyone was saying like, "Oh, you're going to talk to Krishna." Like it was a big deal. Like you're the Wizard of Oz or something. And I remember you were nice, but you were also like, you had a long day of interviews.
Yeah.
So you were chatty. You were
No.
just kind of sitting in a corner.
Interesting.
And then Dan was there, Dan Kane.
Yeah.
And he had some tracks, like the camera was tracking.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Amanda was like, "You're going to get to talk to Krishna." Like it was a big deal. And I remember like, I can see myself doing this.
Right.
This is fun.
Well, you were catching me at sort of the apotheosis of my career as a Vice journalist, which is to say I made that weed show. Prior to that, I was like an editor of the magazine.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
I made a weed show, and then they made me the like anchor of the Vice News Tonight show, and then I had to, I did sort of like in studio interview stuff, kind of like I was like the Michael Barbaro of Vice.
So when I met you, if that was the apotheosis, then I've only ever known you on the decline.
You've just seen that.
I've never seen like, okay,
and that's where we find ourselves now.
Yeah, where do we find ourselves now?
Well, we're in my house.
Yes.
And we're producing an independent podcast.
Yeah.
We want to figure out what the next thing is. We were talking earlier, when I was sort of in the sort of ivory tower of Vice News, where I was, I kind of fell asleep a little bit. Like I was supporting the journalism you guys were doing. I wasn't doing a lot of my own,
Right.
primarily because I had 2 kids. I worked very hard for about a decade to get everything off the ground. And I felt like, I'm going to take some time after the 2020 election.
Yeah. You were like an elder statesman.
Yeah, I was like the emeritus correspondent.
Yeah.
But I wasn't producing a lot of my own work. And I wasn't really paying attention to culture. Because the reason I was able to make the Weedy Kit show and everything else was because I had a pretty good pulse on like what youth culture was moving towards, where it was at in like the 2010s. And so I kind of feel like, have you ever read the story of Rip Van Winkle? It's like a Washington Irving short story from the 19th century.
No.
About a guy who in colonial America gets drunk with like, these weirdos in the woods, and wakes up the next day and 20 years have passed and the American Revolution has happened and the whole world is different and he doesn't really understand what's going on.
Right.
So I feel like I'm the Rip Van Winkle of youth media, and I'm waking up and understanding, oh, there are Twitch live streams that like hundreds of thousands of people listen to and watch.
Or the Vice one that 38 people.
That was a great one too. Now I understand what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that there was like a vernacular of talking that way to people about the world.
But it wasn't just the world that changed when you were there. Like Vice changed so much, right? And you were like product of the Vice that we kind of all remember.
That's right.
Right. I joined after Vice had changed a lot. So like my fondness for Vice was always like the weirdness and the quirkiness and the kookiness. And then the Vice I stepped into kind of wasn't that anymore. So like I pined for a Vice that I was never really a part of.
Interesting.
In that sense. So I feel like I haven't been asleep, but I also wasn't part of what I felt like was most natural for me to be a part of.
Which is to say, we're both journalists, but we're not like hard news journalists. Is that the easiest way of putting it?
Have you ever done hard news?
I mean, depends on who you ask, I guess. One time I interviewed the president of El Salvador right as he was getting inaugurated for his first term. But I subbed in for another journalist.
Did you ask journalist questions?
I did, but I was also sort of myself a little bit. You can watch it.
Yeah.
It was a fine job, not great. But I was talking to one of the executive producers at Vice News at that point when she was leaving. And originally another journalist was supposed to go and like couldn't for whatever reason. And so she was like, yeah, the people in El Salvador must have been really surprised when not a real journalist showed up.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, guilty as charged, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I've never written a news piece in my life. I've been a journalist for not that long, 15 years or so. And I've always done like feature stuff, like nonsense bullshit, but I've never done a like a hard news. I tried it once, and then I misspelled Kofi Annan like 7 times in the piece, just coffee Annan. And the editor was like, maybe this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Maybe your vibe is different. And I never worked for them again.
So then finding what our different vibe is and a home for it is, I guess, kind of what we're trying to undertake.
Yeah, because I feel like we found it, or we felt like we found it, right? And
Yeah.
then it went away, and now we are in like just any sort of like man in his 40s finding himself movie kind of thing, like, oh, I'm feeling a bit unmoored and a bit restless. Because like for me, and at least for you, like Vice was such a big part of like how I saw myself.
Yeah.
Like you even have the ring.
I used to wear the Vice
used to
ring,
wear the Vice ring
like
which
every
is-
day.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
put it away. I don't wear it.
People judged you for, or judged you for.
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
But it's like,
Chatter.
who the hell am I now? You know?
Yeah.
I was just like looking in the mirror one day, and Vice went after Vice had gone. I was like, I'm just like a bald dude now. Like what? Who am I now? And it's very disconcerting, and it's like a little sad, and like a sense of loneliness.
And it corresponds with like a midlife moment. Like I
Yeah.
started and it was a youth media company.
Yes.
That now the youth media company has died effectively, and so has my youth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I also think there's a sensibility to the way that we did stuff that really wasn't like like wasn't about age or how old you were.
No.
It was just about how you saw the world.
If you had to do, let's say that this podcast is in your midlife crisis. Like if you had to do a midlife crisis, what would it look like?
Well, I'm doing it now. I like go swimming all the time. I play golf. I took up golf.
That's nice.
I don't do much. I like cook.
Like you potter around the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In like slippers and not a robe, but
and do like childcare stuff. Like my life is now just like picking up children.
Yeah.
And then my oldest daughter, who's now 13, she doesn't need as much picking up now.
Years.
So I'm like, can I come just like hang out with you? Like also I started a TikTok.
You did?
As I was told, and I have 3 followers, and they're all my daughter's friends.
Wow.
Because she lied to them and said I'm friends with, do you know this soccer player Haaland, who's like the greatest soccer player in the world?
Yeah, he's Norwegian.
He's Norwegian. So my daughter lied to all her school friends, best friends. So like all my followers on TikTok, like 12-year-old boys now, wanting me to tell them about my deep friendship with Haaland.
It's potential that you know him, right?
At some level, I'm sure I know him.
Yeah,
at some
that's right.
level. But the midlife crisis thing is real. I've been trying to figure out what I want to do too. And it's taken all kinds of the day before, I had a meeting with a dominatrix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that part of your midlife crisis?
It could be.
Okay.
I don't want to do any sex stuff because it scares me. I'm very anxious.
How would you characterize the nature of this meeting?
Professional.
Well, for her.
Cordial. So I don't know what she expected. She's a friend of a friend, and I don't know what she expected, but I met with her and I was like, I want to learn about kink stuff. Now, I'm a very sort of withdrawn Norwegian person. Sex to me is scary and shameful and all that stuff. So I told her, like, I don't want to do any of it, but can I help?
Okay.
Like, can I help organize your sex parties?
Oh, interesting.
So ideally, I'll be like hors d'oeuvres, celery sticks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do cleanup.
What does the charcuterie platter look like at an orgy?
Anything that doesn't go up the butt. Anything that can't be mistaken for a sex toy. Because you want to keep those separate. At least the trays.
Yeah.
You could have like a sex celery tray and an eat celery tray.
Clear markings.
I guess, yes. But I guess what I'm saying is that's the point I am in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very, very weird. So here we are.
And what do we do with it, I guess? It's like we have our voices. We have the ability to make things with phones and computers and laptops and stuff. But what do we want to do with it?
Well, also because I was trying to write for a while, and I realized that what I was writing was bumming me right out because I was trying to be a journalist.
Okay.
Or I was trying to be like a serious boy.
Yeah.
And I had a Blue Sky account. I still have a Blue Sky account, but I was like, I need to get clout.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote stuff about, what the Trump administration is doing and all that stuff, which is all like fucking terrible stuff they're doing. But I also realized that it was making me very sad and upset in a time in my life where I'm already in a pretty fraught frame of mind, but also like other people are doing this better than I am.
Yeah, I get that feeling a lot whenever I'm like, oh, I should do something about said issue. And I think there's a lot of really smart, excellent journalists who have the chops to turn things around quickly with excellent sourcing.
Like no one's calling us to talk about Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder what Krishna feels about Ukraine.
Right. I'm not like a talking head with like a lot of geopolitical knowledge or analysis. I don't know.
Which is fine. I don't think I want to be that person anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I had wanted to be that person, maybe I would have become that person, but I never wanted.
What do you think is your skill set then?
This is something I think about a lot. I don't think I have one. I don't have any hard skills other than the ability to talk to someone and like
Yeah.
listen to what they say. Usually I have a plan going in because I want them to say something about the thing that I'm trying to make a movie about or make a documentary about. But in this case, we don't have a plan. So I'm not even sure if I have the hard skills for this conversation.
Did you write notes before we sat down about what you wanted to talk about?
Well, my note-taking process is even in total disarray. I just send myself emails or drafts of emails. Like, I don't even know where to write stuff down. So I don't have the hard skills of a production person, of a journalist. I don't have the hard skills of someone who's organized.
Yeah.
I have been floating in thinking that I would be totally cool for the rest of my life just talking to people about stuff like the first time we met.
Yeah.
And so I guess I have to recreate that again under our own auspices. Maybe I am good at it. I don't know. You tell me.
I mean, I'm sure we must be okay.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe we're not the best, but like, there's something there.
And
people paid us to do it.
People did pay us to do it, and maybe people will listen again. I think that's sort of the experiment, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think we have a lot of, I guess the word would be structure to what we want to do with us talking to each other.
Yeah.
But we are trying to see what people think about it.
Yeah. It's strange to think about that people, that they might listen to this. It's, but it's like it is very weird to realize that what you were really good at maybe is not something that people need or want in this day and age. But I don't think that's true.
Yeah. A long time ago, I did a long piece about the future of work.
That was a good piece.
I appreciate it.
There was like an autonomous truck in there, was there?
Yeah, that's the first scene. I rode in a self-driving truck. And I talked to a bunch of economists who were like, this is what the future of work is going to be. And like AI is coming and automation. And of course, it goes from like, yes, sort of manual labor, blue collar jobs, but it's coming for the sort of brain work people.
Yeah.
And what they were saying was that like in the future, everyone's going to have like a little thin slice of expertise that they're really good at.
Yeah.
That like 1,000 or 10,000 or 15,000 people are going to pay attention to. And that's the way things will get monetized. And I think they were kind of right.
Yeah.
And you see that sort of in the way that the media system exists today, at least the independent media, using social media and stuff. And finding myself there now, like if I like zoom back to that interview, being like, really, dude? No, that's not how it's gonna work.
Yeah.
And yet here we are.
Man.
Trying to get like 10,000 people to be like, cool, man, this is good.
Yeah.
I want to listen to this. Well, and then on the other side of it, podcasts have been an enemy of mine in my head for a very long time.
Right. Why?
I don't know why. I think maybe I was threatened by change.
Yeah.
Because I saw it coming somewhere in my deep bones. And I was like, oh, wait, I've worked so hard to make television this thing that I want. Because to me, I grew up watching TV. So to be important or at least exist in the world, you had to be on television.
Yeah.
And so now the thought that I might never be on television again and that I have to do something that involves microphones and computers and stuff makes me very uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I'm sort of slipping off the face of the planet.
Well, yeah, because the planet that we lived on doesn't really exist anymore.
That's right.
But I was feeling the same way about podcasts. I still think they're weird because it is just like a few dudes, and it's usually a few dudes just like having chit chats, and then you're like, is this content? Is this anything? But I mean, maybe.
Well, now I think I have a lot more sympathy towards it because I don't have a place to go every day to talk to a bunch of people about interesting shit, which was like, behind the scenes of what we did as journalists was just like heading into an office or onto an airplane or into the field and just talking to interesting people about interesting shit constantly. And so now I do listen to podcasts and I'm like, oh, these are my friends. These are my coworkers and friends.
How much do you miss a plane ticket in your life?
Oh, like the Delta app, opening that up and seeing that you have something coming up, checking your miles, your status, all these sorts of things.
I still do that. I think I still did that.
I mean, I still have it on my homepage. It's on my first screen, but I haven't checked it because it's depressing.
It's so sad.
But the point that I'm getting to is that, and then I read about this in sort of a New Yorker article and other places about like the parasocial effect of podcasting and Twitch streaming and things like that, where, you know, the people who listen to it are the folks that have a lot of time by themselves. Because like, when are you going to listen to a 3-hour podcast?
This morning I was in the car. I was parked outside a coffee shop where I was meeting my friend, and I was listening to a podcast, and I wanted to finish it. It was a funny podcast. This is how hectic my days are. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the window, and it's my friend, and he goes like, "Are you crying in your car?"
Were you crying?
No, I was laughing. But
That's
I also find it concerning that my friends kind of jump to that, like that's their first assumption,
Mhm.
that he's now reduced to sitting outside a coffee shop, just like openly weeping in his car.
I mean, but that's sort of like that's what people think is what you're doing. So
Yeah.
when they see it, they're like, "Oh, that must be what he's doing."
Yeah,
What
yeah.
else could he be doing?
What else could he be
Well,
doing?
and so I, you know, whenever I'm in a social situation now, I have to. People are like, "So what have you been up to?" And I'm like,
I
"Well,
don't like that at all anymore.
yeah." And it used to be like, I need to fill this conversation or this little mini conversation with a bunch of things that I've been doing,
Yeah.
to sound like I've been busy. And now I'm like, I'm doing nothing. Like, I did nothing.
That feels better, doesn't it? Well, it feels like it's a good point to get to.
Yeah,
But like I'm still at that. Like I found myself like I don't really want to go out anymore
for that reason.
for that reasons. Like I'm fine hanging out with you and like my other like friends, but like if there's like a social thing where I don't like where I have to have this New York, oh, so what do you do? Then I'm like, I don't feel like I have a good answer for it, and I get defensive and like sad and blue.
Well, because I think we're in conversations with ourselves and with the outside world about like what we do and why,
Yeah.
right? And so it used to be really easy to tell a story of what I do because there was a big media company involved with it. I was like very synonymous from like my face was synonymous with that media company in many ways, my voice and so it was easy. Like, what do you do? What is your place in the world? And I knew what that place was in. I knew what my place was in the world, and I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
And so now I don't know what my place in the world is, and I don't like it.
It's a very, yeah, it's like an unmooring thing. I don't like it's fucking with my sleep.
Is it really?
It's been fucking with my sleep. Yeah. Do you sleep? Well,
Yeah,
do you not wake up in a blind panic?
I do. But can you guess what puts me back to sleep?
Podcasts?
Podcasts. I listen to a sports podcast and I go right out.
Really?
Yeah, and so sometimes our daughter will come into our bed in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
and so if I wake up after she's already in her bed, I go to her bed, turn on
Yeah.
the sports podcast, I'm out.
That's perfect.
And if she hasn't, I put on a pair of headphones and just listen to, fucking what people think about betting on sports.
You know what you need to get that I got?
What?
And this is like, my wife fucking hates this. I got like a sleep headband that has like Bluetooth.
Oh,
Because
wow.
You look ridiculous, but they're very comfortable because you can just like lie on your side.
That is a problem. Yeah.
But I need all that like within arm's reach because I'll wake up at like 4 a.m. and I'll feel the panic just like start to grab me. And then I need to have like melatonin right there,
Yeah.
podcast right there.
Yeah.
And then just hopefully it'll knock me out.
Well, I think there's a lot of avoidance that I've practiced. And I think sleeping is a big part of my avoidance strategy, avoiding confronting crisis or
Yeah.
the place that we find ourselves on right now. I can very easily avoid that feeling by going to sleep.
That's good.
Which is good, but also means that months, like, weeks go by, months go by, and
Yeah.
like soon enough, years go by where I haven't really done anything or figured out what it is that I want to do.
Are your parents worried about you?
They're not, but
Oh, that's good.
it's because I've put them through the ringer on this shit. But I think mostly because I think they saw how much I responded to. I mean, they're Indian American immigrants.
Yeah.
Both worked extremely hard as students, but then in their careers, and they got burnt out pretty quickly too. And so they're like, "Oh, you're just in a mid-career reset, dude. Like, we've been through it as well."
Whoa.
And I'm like, "Wow, you guys are insightful and compassionate. Like, where was this
Yeah.
20 plus years ago?"
I mean, I'm getting insightful and compassionate from my parents, but I'm also getting that subtext of like deep concern,
Yeah,
which is off-putting,
right.
that I haven't felt since like, what are you going to be when you grow up?
Well, I mean, the other part of it, and I think that deep down inside of us, there must be some kind of hustle because, like, this sort of, even the work we did prior, like, you need to self-motivate to
Yeah.
get there. So I think
Because they're nonsense jobs. And I think
They are.
that's key too.
That's right.
Like, I don't know if we can have normal jobs. Like, I mean, obviously we could,
Yeah,
but I don't know where
obviously we could. I'm not sure.
because I don't know where they are. Like, how do you get this job? Like, let's say, what's a normal job?
Well, that depends.
Yeah, like see, we don't even know that.
We don't even
But like, I wouldn't know where to start getting a normal job. Like, I looked into teaching,
know. Okay.
but then I was like, how do you? I don't know. Do I go ask a principal?
At a private school, maybe, yeah. I mean, at a public school, you need to
Can
get
you
a
just
master's.
can just like a fucking dude like me roll up to a private school and say, "Hey, can I teach here?" That sounds creepy.
It does sound creepy.
Yeah,
Or you could be like a therapist. That's something I've thought about, like getting a
you'd be good at that.
MSW, getting an SID at some point. It's a years long process, but
Yeah,
I remember, especially when you're talking to people who have part of the job when we were journalists on television was like you show up with a bunch of people to someone's house or in a place and you're like, tell me about the worst thing that happened to you.
yeah.
Continue to tell me about it. You didn't kind of do it the right way. Can you try to do it again? Like,
Oh wow.
and so I think I have over time been the recipient of people's narratives of trauma. And so maybe I could do that for a living. Anyway, we're going a little
Sure.
further than like what should we do now?
Okay, what should we do now? What do you want to do now?
I want to get out of the house.
God, I want to get out of the
I
house
want to get out of fucking
so
house.
much. Because like one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is that the world all of a sudden got like really dull.
Yeah.
But not just for me, but kind of like for everyone. Like I remember when I was a kid, um, you'd have travel shows
Mm-hmm.
and you'd watch them and like they're in fucking Thailand.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit, Thailand. And you had no idea what was happening in Thailand. And then the internet came, like everything came, and like even like, there's been so many things that has made the world like dull and normal. We don't have any sense of wonder left.
Yeah, and when you say dull, I think you mean small.
Yeah,
Like the world has been reduced to the size of the screen of my phone.
yeah,
And yeah, I can dip into it and feel like the world is big sometimes, but the flattening of it has been really like it really fucks with me. And so I think you're right. The reason I got into this kind of journalism was to get a plane ticket for free to go somewhere that I wanted to go to.
yeah.
And like I
The
think
having to produce stuff was always like, ugh, that's like the unfortunate side effect of getting to go to these places.
that's right. But then over time, I kind of stopped not wanting to go to the places anymore because I was like, oh, I have to be away so much. I have the family, and
Yeah.
like we're back to Pittsburgh. Here we are in Pittsburgh again, or here we Denver. I went to Denver like 100 times,
I went to Cincinnati so many times.
and I love Denver. I have a great time in Denver.
Yeah.
But you start knowing the airport really well, and you realize that you're just a business traveler.
All the weird stuff in the Denver airport.
Yeah, you're not like a explorer anymore. You're a business traveler. And I
Yeah.
think that if from the standpoint of what I want to do now is I want to get back to a point where I see that the world is big, full of wonder, as you're
Mhm.
saying, complicated, but ultimately enjoyable and a puzzle to figure out.
Yeah.
To understand myself a little bit better.
I think I lost sight of that advice too.
Yeah.
Right. Because at some point it became like we all got caught up in culture war stories or political stories, which are interesting and they talk about the moment that we live in, but they're also like reductive
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, right? Where
By nature, they're reductive because you only, it's a 7-minute story or 5-minute story.
exactly. But I find for myself that's like what I really like about it is I like people,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to have experiences with people.
Yeah.
And what I kind of want to get back to is like going around and just like finding out what's going on with people because I find people at their core are pretty nice.
Yeah.
Me and my daughter, we bought a little boat,
Okay.
like a 10-foot piece of shit boat. We bought it off the side of the road.
Fine.
I don't know how to use a boat. I don't know that's a verb. Yeah, I don't know how to boat. So my daughter and I tried to get the boat on the water. Turns out there's a plug in boats that you
Like a bathtub.
yeah, pretty much. I hadn't plugged that in at all. So we're getting out like into the fjord, into the river a little bit, and we just start sinking. And it's me, and this is probably a core memory for my daughter, just like her dad trying to keep the tears at bay.
Yeah.
There's a metaphor in there too. But at some point we were like crying for help.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, the water is only like 2 feet deep, but
Sure.
still, it's an off-putting sensation.
You don't want to get into a boat with your dad and realize that your dad can't keep the boat afloat.
There's very little your dad can do. This
Yeah.
is like this is for therapy later. But so our neighbor or one of the neighbor comes running along, and he's like a die-hard Trump guy.
Mhm.
He's got all the flags, he's got all the "Let's Go Brandon" fucking bumper stickers, t-shirts, and everything. And he just shows up and he like helps us and he saves us.
Wow.
And he's so nice
Yeah.
and so chill. And he goes like, there are there are two kind of people in this world. There's the people who have sunk in a boat, and there's the people who've sunk in a boat and lied about it. And my daughter's like, wow, I thought you were a bad person.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. there's just nice people out there. There's just like cool people and weird experiences to be had. Like, I don't know, I want more of that.
Yeah, and it seemed like there was a way to capture that in the format of a loosey-goosey documentary. Loosey-goosey might be the wrong word, but like the word that we'd always use was experiential,
Yeah,
right? Like, yes, of course you pre-produce things, but it was about what you found out there
yeah,
that made the difference between this being kind of a straight news story or a straight issue doc into something else.
yeah,
And there was a moment, there was just a very brief moment where there was insight from kind of like the Vice style of how to navigate that, come across it, and bring it to life in the way that we made things. And now I think I kind of do see it still existing on like social media influencers who are global travelers. They go to places, they talk to people. Oftentimes it's a little bit, maybe making fun of them a little bit more than I would think is cool.
yeah,
But it's still that basic concept that there are a ton of people in a lot of different places, and they're all going through life. And it's a little weird and a little different, but like when you talk to them, it's pretty fun.
yeah.
And I think that's what we're trying to do again, right?
You get to go on trips with your friends. You get to have weird experiences.
Yep.
And like, I was always like, when I pitch stuff advice, there was always that question, like, why do you want to do this story?
Mhm.
And my answer would always be like, I don't know, because I want to. And that was never good enough. And I want that to be good enough
It
now.
used to be good enough.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I can understand why you want to professionalize and not make that good enough always. Like the Vice evolved maybe for good reasons, but of course it stopped being there. But I miss the feeling of after a day of shooting something
Yeah.
like that. I miss the feeling of coming home,
Yeah.
right? Like the cab ride from the airport and seeing kind of like the city. You're like, oh, I live here.
Yeah.
I like it here.
That's like there's two great cab rides. There's a cab ride to the airport
Mhm.
when you say bye to your family
Yeah.
and you close the door of
you're like-
the taxi and you're like, fucking yes, that's such a good feeling. Oh, I remember I got into taxi once. My youngest daughter, followed me to the taxi, and when we got in, I closed the door. The taxi driver turns to me and he goes like, "Oh, was that your little granddaughter?" But like, yeah, that feeling. Also, the coming back feeling.
The coming back feeling is great too.
The getting on the road. You meet the shooters in the airport.
Yeah,
it's just great.
And they've been on you hear about their shoots that they went on for other
Shooters are
companies
so
and other
fucking
places.
cool.
Yeah, it's just so fucking cool.
Oh,
All right, I need to take a pause to move the car.
okay.